Hi, I'm Rob, and here we're going to have a look at the enhancement via Maven Ebean enhancement tile. So in terms of the website, if we're going to docs setup enhancement, so documentation setup enhancement, if we scroll down, we see some things on enhancement, including Maven enhancement via a tile. And here we see this plugin, which is the tiles Maven plugin, and it's bringing in our ebean enhancement tile. So I'm going to have a look at that, explain how that works, and how to debug it and things like that. So just to quickly, if we jump over to the actual source code for the tile. So if we look in GitHub, Avaji POM tile ebean enhancement, this is actually the source code for the tile. And here we've got the README, which says just bring the plugin into your POM and you're done. So what does the tile do? In this case, the tile is effectively bringing in 3 plugins that are configured just to run using defaults. So the first plugin is the Avaji Ebean ORM Maven enhancer. So this is enhancing entity beans in that transactional code in source main. There's the query bean enhancer, which is for enhancing query beans in source main and in source test, and the code generation plugin for generating finders. So this tile is really a composite of those 3 plugins with default configuration. If we scroll down, we'll see that it has some properties as default configuration, which we can override in our POM. And I'll show you what we basically want to be able to sometimes override this property here, which is for the debug level on the enhancement. And then we've got the 3 plugins. So we've got the code generation plugin. We've got the Query Bean Maven plugin. Now this has 2 executions. So one of them is the process classes phase, and the other one is the process test classes phase. So process classes runs after the compile, and process test classes runs after the test compile. So that's for running the enhancement on the query beans. And if we scroll down, there's another plugin, which is the Ebean Maven enhancer for running the enhancement on source main for entity beans and at transactional. So yeah, we bring in the tile. The tile is basically going to bring in those 3 plugins for us. So let's have a look at our project. So we've got, so this is the example minimal project, and I'm looking at the POM, and here we've got our only plugin is the tiles plugin with our Maven enhancement tile. Okay, so if we bring up a command line and we go Maven help effective POM, Maven will basically resolve what the actual POM is that it uses. Now I'm going to just pipe that into less so I can search on it. So if we scroll through this slowly, we will be able to find our plugins, but it's too much hassle. So let's search for them. So the first thing we find is actually the tiles Maven plugin referencing our tile. And if we scroll up a bit more, the next thing we find is our plugin, which is our Ebean ORM Maven enhancer. So this is doing the entity bean enhancement and the at transactional enhancement. It's going to run on at process classes against source target classes, and the debug level is 0. So we'll have a look at that a little bit later. The next plugin that we see is this Query Bean Maven plugin, and this is doing our Query Bean enhancement. So this has got 2 executions, one at process classes and the other one at process test classes. And then if we scroll up a little bit more, we've got our code generation plugin. So effectively our tile is just a composite of those 3 plugins and bringing them in. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is go Maven compile. Now, the point here is that we aren't going to see the enhancement. If you do Maven, well, actually I should probably do this Maven clean compile, if I can type. We'll have exactly the same thing probably, yeah. And so we see clean plugin, resources plugin, and compile plugin. We don't see any enhancement. Just want to go here and show the Maven life cycles. So compile is running here and process classes runs after it, and that's where we're doing our enhancement for the entity beans and the query beans. So if we scroll down a little bit further, we get the test compile and we get process test classes. So this is where we see the enhancement for test code. So instead of doing clean compile, let's go process classes. So we've got our compiler plugin, and then the next thing we see here is this Maven query bean Maven plugin. So this is doing our query bean enhancement. Some arguments there, and then we've got our Ebean ORM Maven enhancer. So this is going to do the entity bean enhancement, and actually it's telling us that it enhanced a target classes org example domain customer. So to emphasize the point there, we're not seeing test enhancement. So if we go process test classes, that will run after the test compile. So again, we see compiler, query bean, Maven enhancement, ebean Maven, ebean Maven enhancement, and then we see a resources plugin firing, compiler plugin firing again. So this is doing test compile, and then the query bean Maven plugin firing again, and this is doing enhancement of the test classes. Now that's kind of good. It is showing us that it's being activated, but we're not getting a lot of debug output from that. So one of the things that we sometimes want to do is actually have some more debug coming from our enhancement. Now, if I go effect POM and grep for debug, we'll see this setting here, which is for the Ebean ORM plugin args debug 0. Let's just copy that. Let's go into our POM. So we go up into our POM. We've got a property there, so paste that in. So at the moment we're running at debug 0, and effectively debug 9 is full noise. We would see lots of stuff coming out there. Let's just make it 2 for now. And let's go back. So we'll go Maven clean process test classes. And we got a little bit more output here. So effectively we're getting some debug on the query bean enhancement, which is saying Q customer was enhanced as a type query bean, and Q associated customer was enhanced as a type query bean. And then we're doing the ebean enhancement. So this is saying I found customer as an entity bean, and it's giving us some debug here. And this is enhanced it. And then if we keep scrolling down, we've got our query bean enhancer going again, and it's saying that it enhanced some code in customer query test. So if we might as well crank it up, cranked it up to 9. This is a fairly small project, so we haven't got much code to enhance, so not too bad, but we get lots of stuff basically. Basically, there's more debug output as part of the enhancement process. So this is the initial query bean enhancement, saying what it's doing in terms of adding methods and replacing constructors and stuff like that. The entity bean enhancement going on here. And if we keep scrolling down, we'll have the customer query test being enhanced, and some other debug information. Right. So, and obviously, we go Maven clean test. Hopefully, everything is compiled, enhanced, tests run, build success. So that's all good. Okay. So that's pretty much it. There's what I can do now is just quickly look at the source code for the tile. You're wondering what's this tile business. In the POM itself, there's nothing interesting here in the sense that it's just saying I'm using the Tiles Maven plugin for building this artifact, and the interesting part is the tile.xml file. And the tile.xml file just contains, for example, properties. So these are if you like, the default configuration and plugin versions, and then the actual sort of tile plugin, the plugin XML. And so the tile plugin, when it builds, will build our tile from this. So there's actually not much more to it than that. And then our tile is ready. So yep, that's it. Just as a summary, what does the tile do? The tile brings in our three Maven plugins with default configuration, and sometimes we want to be able to crank up the debug level, if you like. If it's debug 0, that's sort of normal. 1 or 2 is not a bad value, and that's kind of it. And if we just looked at our history, that'll do that. We've got some. If you're wanting to just see the enhancement fire, then Maven clean process test classes is good for seeing the main and source test enhancement, and Maven clean process classes for seeing just the main code being compiled and enhanced. And if we just go to Maven core life cycles, you can see that here: compile, process classes, and test compile, test process test classes. So that's in Maven core life cycles. Should be able to find it. And that's it. Thank you.